What's going on, everybody? I am Uncle Henry Hill here, and I'm back with my good mate Logan Myers over there. How
Hi.
you doing, good mate? It's good to be back with you again. We're here, of course, to review the latest episode of Marvel Studios' Disney Plus streaming show, Loki. It's been going on for 5 weeks now. We're going to be covering episode 5 here. Episode 5 is entitled Journey into Mystery, and we start off in this episode uh, following last week's ending of the episode 4, where Loki was pruned by Judge Renslayer. She stuck him in the back with the prune. He disappeared. And then in the last shot, we saw that Loki ended up in the void along with those other Loki variants that that were teased in the previous episode. So that was a really cool way to end it. And we pick up right from there at the beginning of this episode. Sylvie's there with Judge Renslayer. They're in the TVA room. We found out that the timekeepers were nothing but robots. And so we don't know yet if Renslayer really knows the truth behind all the TVA, or she's trying to figure it out too. But she is there with Sylvie. And, Loki's just been pruned. Sylvie's there talking with Renslayer, trying to figure things out. Sylvie knows that she's going to have to get pruned in order to get back with Loki. So that's what ends up happening. But before she gets pruned by Renslayer, she grabs the time pad.
And that's when things get a little too wild in episode 5. And when you said prune, did you mean like a raisin?
Just like that, yeah. Just like one of those old wild California raisins from the 80s.
But yeah, this is a really good episode. Last one was probably the best, but this one really is in the same realm, so to speak. It really gets better and is really setting up the end of the season. Episode 6 being next week. We still have a lot of questions. They still have a lot of things to wrap up, but it was definitely another solid episode, especially with all the Loki variants. We had the classic Loki, by what I said last night, Richard Grant. Ooh. He's got the famous gear on, and then he had Kid Loki, the alligator Loki, and then there's another one. I can't think of his name right now.
Boastful Loki.
Boastful Loki, yeah, he was badass. But yeah, there's the way they introduce these characters really interesting. It's really focused on them and Loki this episode, and you're seeing Tom Hiddleston Loki. There's so many Lokis to talk about here. That really noticing, he's made a lot of mistakes. He's done some really terrible things and kind of questioning himself, being around these other variants in the void, and embarking on this journey with them essentially in this episode, setting up some really great set pieces in terms of CGI. Just the way everything looked, it looked like straight out of Lord of the Rings, going to Middle Earth or something, but it looked really well done. CGI was top notch in this, especially the scene with classic Loki, Richard Grant, towards the end of the episode, really fantastic. But this episode, Loki being pruned and being with these variants and embarking on this journey, you can see what he's coming across and what he's looking back upon, in his past life and from the other Avengers movies and Thor movies. He's a piece of shit, so he's really coming to terms with a lot of things.
By showing these other Lokis, these variant Lokis, like you mentioned, Loki is able to see how he's been acting in the past with all his betrayals of Thor and the other heroes in the Marvel universe throughout the way. He sees how, he's always backstabbed everybody. He's always been the bad guy pretty much, but he hasn't really ever noticed it. He's the God of Mischief. That's just what he does. But he's able to see these other characters and get a firsthand account of like what damage that it's causing. We see the scene where he's with these other Loki variants, and the President Loki comes in, who has the horns of Loki and has like a suit on with basically a political button on his jacket. And he comes in with all these other Lokis, and they're there, they're going to cause some chaos. And then they end up, of course, betraying each other. Nobody's on the same page. Everybody's just looking to betray each other. So it's just one big betrayal after the other here. So we're getting this, Loki, the Loki we know, Tom Hiddleston, figuring out that all this betrayal is causing chaos, nothing's getting solved. So he's able to see his mistakes, and we see character development of him through looking at these other characters basically, and he's gonna redeem himself. He wants to redeem himself here. So we're seeing some changes in the Loki that we know.
And one of the last reviews of Loki, we were talking about Mobius, what happens to him, the ultimate demise essentially. by Judge Renslayer. We found out that he's still alive and alive in the void, so we get to see him back, which is all I can say about that is wow.
Wow.
Now he's really him and Loki's relationship is the emotional anchor of this series, and I love their chemistry, the relationship in this, and it was really great to see him back, seeing Owen Wilson return as Mobius. One of my favorite characters of this series so far. I didn't think I would love him as much because he's always kind of typecast in the same character in all the comedies, but he's really showing some acting chops and some serious dramatic performance from him. So it was great seeing him return, showing up in the void, and his, him and Loki's conversation.
He had a nice little bromance with Loki. I agree. I like their chemistry together and the way they were both able to change each other. Mobius was all about the TVA, one track mind. He was all about the mission. And by the end of the show, both him and Loki kind of switched, like they're thinking all together. They both became good, through each other's relationship, going after each other, working together. And Mobius was able to come through in the end here and help Sylvie and Loki. We see Sylvie, she gets to the void along with, where Loki is with the other variants. And she knows that in order to get off this planet, they figured out the only way to do that is to somehow defeat Goliath, which is this big smoke monster basically in the sky that comes. The only way that they're going to be able to leave this world and get back to where they need to go is to defeat Goliath. So Sylvie's plan is to use her powers of enchantment and hopefully enchant Goliath and figure out how to get out of this place and to get to the timekeepers, which is the ultimate goal. They want to figure out what's going on. The answer to be behind this whole series, what's the TVA, who's pulling the strings, and hopefully in the next episode we're going to find that out. But that was a really cool scene where Mobius comes in the car. We see this car going through with the big smoke monster chasing Sylvie, and it's this car with a big slice of pizza on the top, sort of on a spring, so it's moving back and forth. You don't know who's in there, and then you find out it's Mobius, and Mobius comes and scoops up Sylvie and saves her before Goliath comes. So that was a really cool scene.
Do you think that was an intentional nod to Lost? Because that's all I thought of when I was watching that.
The smoke monster. Yeah, I got those vibes too, for sure.
Yeah, it had a really close resemblance, even though it kind of looked like an animal, like a bear or something. But
right.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. I don't know if there's a little nod to the great series J.J. Abrams Lost, but I thought that was really interesting. With all of them coming together and coming across Goliath, and then how I was talking about classic Loki, Richard Grant bringing out some superpowers, and Loki's like, I didn't know we could do that. But the CGI at the very end, it was really well done. I like the smoke monster Goliath. That was really cool. Eerie, scary touch to this episode, and then trying to defeat that and get to the timekeepers. It really seeing all these characters together in the void is really awesome, and also more the introduction of the Loki variants. I thought they're all different, all have different personalities.
I loved them all too. That was the best part of this episode, seeing all the generations of different Lokis. The younger kid Loki. We learned, he said throughout the episode, he got to the void there because he found out a way to kill Thor. And the old Loki, of course, the classic outfit played by Richard Grant. He was awesome in the role, just really believable in his role, and played the classic comic book old timey Loki very well. I enjoyed his character a lot, and we've seen him before in some awesome shows like Game of Thrones. He's been in some other stuff that we've seen him in. Being fans of the comic book genre and big fantasy epics like that, he was perfect as old Loki. In addition to all the old Loki, the Loki variants, there were a lot of Easter eggs in this episode as well. The Thanos helicopter from the comic books made a small brief appearance. I didn't actually see it during the episode, but on Instagram, somebody took a screenshot of it, along with a frog Thor. It was a frog climbing a wall, I believe, and it had the Thor cape on it. So a lot of these little Easter eggs and little nods to the past Marvel comic book series, and of course the Marvel universe and as a whole. So those were cool to see and try to pick out. I'm going to definitely end up watching the series again, so I'm going to try to keep a better eye on these things going on in the background, because right now I'm just trying to pay attention to the story and what's going on. It's hard to see everything in the background that they're throwing up there, but on the second viewing I'll be able to pay more attention to what's going on in the background and try to figure out all these little Easter eggs and nods to the Marvel comic series.
It's too much going on. It's hard to catch every little thing. It's like a series, like any Marvel like movies. You have to go back and rewatch them a few times to catch everything. Because I'm not familiar with the source material for Loki and all the different versions of him. So this is a series I've been scratching my head a lot trying to figure everything, try to figure everything out and what's going on. And this is a series I'll definitely have to rewatch. That's a good thing because it's been really fantastic. 5 episodes in. But yeah, it leads me to some more questions. How you were saying who's pulling the strings here? Who's going to be the big villain that they reveal? And I'm going to call it. I'm going to go Doctor Doom. You haven't seen that Wild Rascal in Fantastic Four movies? Was it Julian McMahon?
Yeah.
That was terrible. I just rewatched that. That movie's awful.
Yeah, I'm glad they're redoing it. They'll hopefully do it justice this time in that character. Cool to see him. A lot of people have been speculating Kang the Conqueror.
Yeah, that too.
And more people think it's just going to be like an all-powerful Loki variant. So yeah, we'll have to see who it ends up being, or if it's going to be old Mephisto that everybody was guessing for WandaVision.
Yeah, that's what I was saying early on too in this season because of the devil in that painting in the 1600s. I'm like, maybe it's Mephisto, but I don't know. Maybe it's Doctor Doom. Maybe this is his way into the MCU, leading into Fantastic Four movie. Who knows?
It's going to be a great finale. They have a ton to wrap up. It's going to be hard to answer everything and wrap everything up. But even if they aren't able to answer everything, hopefully that means that we'll be getting more seasons. I don't know. These shows seem like they're one and done kind of to me. This could be all wrapped up or it could keep going. So I don't know what they're going to do from here, whether this is going to be the last episode of Loki ever, or if there's going to be another season. We're going to see these characters move on, maybe just in the films moving forward. But yeah, I'm there. Can't wait to see how everything's wrapped up. And we also got a glimpse of like Loki getting that dagger at the end. So I'm pretty sure that's going to come into play somehow in this last episode. Maybe he's going to use it to defeat whoever's pulling the strings, or use it somehow, obviously, because they just wouldn't introduce it without, it being important in some way going into this last episode.
Absolutely. I had a great time with episode 5. Really diving into the variant Lokis, all the different versions, and really fantastic group of guys, really funny. Even the alligator was pretty funny and scary at the same time, since I have a fear of gators, but it was CGI gator, so it wasn't too bad. It's a baby, but it's pretty funny. And introducing the ending scene with the smoke monster and trying to figure out who the timekeepers are, who's behind everything, maybe introducing a huge villain at the very end of the series. I could totally see that. It makes me want more of this, and I'm really excited for the final episode 6 that's going to be debuting, premiering next week on Disney Plus. So we'll be back talking about that. But episode 5, really fantastic. Leading from the last episode 4, which is probably the best of the season. Did a great job seeing these characters in the void, and I had a great time with it. Great writing, great directing, cinematography was great. The CGI was really fucking good in this. With that being said, I give episode 5 a 4 out of 5 Richard Grant hair pieces.
I loved everything too. Loved everything about the episode. I loved the void, how it looked. The CGI was really well done. Nothing looked terrible. Even the CGI alligator was, well done. Obviously, they're not going to use a real alligator and threaten all the actors' lives on set. So, yeah, I love how the smoke monster looked. I love all the Loki variants. Each had their own little quirks and personalities. And I love how Loki's getting his redemption story here. It's pretty cool to see him, find some redemption here. Him become a good guy. Finally, we've seen him be nothing but the bad guy throughout all these, the Avengers films and throughout the Thor films. So it's going to be nice to see him. And then obviously from this series, we're going to see him with Thor again sometime. So it'll be cool to see them reconnect, maybe in Thor, God and Thunder. We'll have to see what ends up here at the end of the show. But this has been a great series. This has been episode 5. I'm going to give episode 5 a 4 out of 5 Richard Grant hair pieces.
You look horny, Mr. Grant. So we want to hear from you guys per usual. What are your predictions with the finale of Loki? Who's going to show up? Who's going to be the big bad guy behind everything here? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to hit subscribe.
thank you guys for following along with us. Stay tuned for the finale next Wednesday, where we're going to be covering the last episode of Loki here. This will be 3 series, Marvel Disney Plus series for us in a row. So we're going to be wrapping up another one. This will be our 3rd one, mate. We did WandaVision, we did Falcon and Winter Soldier.
We had Mighty Ducks too. It's on Disney Plus. We did that.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
right. I don't even know what's the big show coming out next for Disney, but we'll have to find out. We'll be back talking about it.
I'm trying to think if it's Hawkeye's next, or I feel like there's something else I'm missing.
Hawkeye and She-Hulk. She-Hulk was
She-Hulk.
Yeah, but they were just filming that, so that's not going to be out till next year at least.
That'll be a while.
Yeah.
So probably the next live action one should be Hawkeye, I believe. There's that What If series that they just released the trailer for today, so I'll have to look at
that's another one. We could check that out. I think it's animated. So regardless, we'll be back here doing more reviews of TV and movies and everything in the entertainment business. We have a blast doing this. Me and my good mate over here, Mobius Hill, and we love doing this. And yeah, if you haven't already, check us out right here on our YouTube channel. Check us out Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and our website, Cinephellas.com.
So until next time, you Loki variants, we'll be back for the finale of Loki, and we can't wait. It's going to be a great episode. I'm so stoked for it. Find out who's pulling the strings, hopefully. Big, giant reveal at the end. I bet something cataclysmic's going to happen to launch us into the next phase of these films. And tomorrow, we also see the release of Black Widow. So we've got some movies and shows to cover yet to come, so we can't wait to be back with you guys. Thank you guys for following us. Tell your friends about us. Tell us what you guys thought about the episode in the comments below. So until next time, these 2 wild mischief makers are out of here. See you next time, boys and girls. Cheers.
Cheers.